Hello! Today I'm doing my July wrap-up, sort of August TBR. I barely have anything on my August TBR, so it'll be quick. Alright, let's just get into it. The first book I read in July was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, which I gave 4.25 stars. If you don't know what that book is about, it's basically about this girl named Lara Jean, and she writes a letter to every boy she falls in love with but doesn't send them. When somehow her letters get sent out, she has to deal with all the boys she's ever loved before knowing that she liked them. And it kind of goes into some drama and fake relationships. And it's also really about family with her sisters and her father. And I really enjoy this series. I'm really excited to be, the film adaptation on Netflix comes out in just a couple of days, so I'm really excited. It should be fun. The second book I read was the second book in that series, P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, which I gave 4 stars, which is just a continuation of the first book. The next book is the first book I read for Booktubeathon, so I'm not going to go into the Booktubeathon, or not Booktubeathon, sorry, Biannual Bibliothon or the Booktubeathon synopsis, how I felt about them too much, because I have them in my Biannual Bibliothon and Booktubeathon vlogs that you can go watch. But the first book I read for Biannual Bibliothon was The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw, which I gave 4.75 stars. It's basically about these 3 witches that possess girls every summer and kill boys. The next book I read for Biannual Bibliothon was Speak by Lori Halse Anderson, which I gave 5 stars. This book is about a girl who was the victim of sexual assault and how she deals with that and how she finds the courage to speak out. The 50th book I read this year, and the third book I read for Biannual Bibliothon, was Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, which is my new favorite book. I gave it 5 stars. I've talked about this book a few times now, but it was so good. I can't even it's magical realism, which I'd never read magical realism before, and then I did, and now I'm obsessed and I love the book, so definitely read it. After that, I read the audiobook of Never Old Awake by Marisha Pessl, which I gave 4.25 stars. It's basically a thriller mystery, sort of science fiction-y thriller about this group of friends who get stuck in a time loop type thing, and they have to make a really hard decision in order to get out that none of them are willing to make. So it's really, really good. I actually really enjoyed it. More than I thought I would. Then I read Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, which I gave 4.75 stars. This book was so good. It's about an orphan girl in Canada who is given to the Cuthbert siblings when they wanted a boy, but they decided to keep her, and her adventures, her 11 to 13-year-old self is in the first book, and she's just so fun. I love her. The book was so much better than I was expecting. The last book I read for Biannual Bibliothon was Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Henry Blake, which I gave 4.25 stars. I was a little disappointed by it. I expected a lot more from it, but it still had a really important message. Basically, this book follows the main character. I can't remember her name. I never remember characters' names. You can't judge me for that. Her best friend and her brother are dating, but her best friend accuses her brother of raping her. And she never thought her brother could do something like that, but she knows her friend wouldn't lie either. So it's really an internal struggle about who to believe and how to be there for her brother and her friend at the same time. And it's a really good book. I just didn't think it was as good as everyone was saying, so I think maybe my expectations were a little high, which is why I didn't quite enjoy it. I thought I was going to be a 5-star book, but it was 4.25. And then I got 92% of the way through Don't You Forget About Me by Kate Carias Quinn, which I can't even describe. It's a weird book. I didn't like it. I gave it 2.5 stars, but I got 92% of the way through it for Biannual Bibliothon, and then I finished it the next day because It was literally 12 o'clock. And I was like, oop, biennial bibliothon's done, and I still had some of the book left. So I was like, guess I didn't finish 7 books, but I was okay with that because I really did not like that book. And then, I'm like, zooming today. And then I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green for another video that I did where I read my friend, who's also a booktuber, Melissa at Honeybee Reads, favorite books. I read Vicious in May and Turtles All the Way Down in July now, and I'm not a big John Green fan, but I actually gave it 4 stars. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, I suggest you check out that video because I go into a lot of depth with both of those books. But yeah. And then the last book I read in July was Ghost Friends Forever #1, My Heart Lies in the 90s by Monica Gallagher and Kata Kane, which I gave 5 stars. It's this adorable graphic novel about this family that's divided, splitting apart. Sophia is in her father's custody, and her brother Felix is in her mother's custody, and her mother continues to run the old family business of helping ghosts cross over and helping ghosts find their place. And Sophia really wants to be part of that, but since she doesn't live with her mom, she has to do it by herself. So she goes to the forest to find a ghost and meets Whitney, a ghost, a girl that died in the 90s, and they start to have a romance and Whitney starts remembering little bits about her death, and they try to figure out how she died and what happened. And it's one of my new favorites. Like, oh my god, I want a gay ghost romance. Thank you very much. Like, if you can find me a teenage ghost, send her my way. And like, ghosts are right up my alley. I really love ghosts and like ghosty haunted things. And this ghost was so pure, I wasn't expecting it. And like, I know I said I would go quick and I did read, this was the first book I read for Booktubeathon, but I really needed to talk about that because it's so good. I don't really have a good TBR for August. So I'm kind of taking a break from reading since I read so many books in such a small amount of time. Did 2 readathons within like 2 weeks-ish. So that was like crazy. So maybe I'll just talk about the books, the one book that I have on my TBR, and then the books that I'm currently reading and want to get through. But it's already halfway through like August. I know this is late, but like I didn't have time. I'm currently reading 7 Ways We Lie. I'm rereading it. It's one of my favorite LGBT books. Like literally it's amazing. There's a pansexual and an asexual main character. And then I'm also reading The Color Purple by Alice Walker, which is like the saddest thing I've ever read. Like I think I'm like 40 pages in and I was just like, So I haven't read that in a few days, but I want to. And then I'm still reading Ready Player One, which I started in like April or May or something. I don't really know. But I don't like it, so I don't know if I'll finish it. And then the one book that I haven't started that's on my TBR is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, which is the first book in the Chaos Walking trilogy. So it's like a dystopian science fiction, I think, which usually isn't my genre, and which is why I'm like really nervous to read it. But the movie with Tom Holland as the main character, Todd, comes out in 2019, and I'm just like really nervous. And like, if I don't like it, I'm gonna be really disappointed because like I want to watch every movie that Tom Holland is in and like enjoy every movie. But if I didn't like the book, I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy the movie. And I'm just like, so yeah, that's all I have for my TBR and for August. Bye.